English translation 198th contact. Friday, 30th November 1984, 22:51 hours.
As you requested, I will report to you some future things that have reference to world events and politics and so on. Already in a month, namely on the 28th of December of this year, 1984, a Soviet warship will operate in the Barents Sea and, as a result of a mistake, will fire a cruise missile, which will crash over northern Finland and also violate the Swedish airspace. But then, the remains of the projectile will first be found at the end of January, lying on the ice of Lake Inari. Then, on the 4th of January, 1985, it will be that for the first time a child is born, who emerges from a replacement pregnancy by a so-called surrogate mother. Then, in mid-January of 1985, it will be decided by the German federal government to participate in the project of a permanently manned space station. Nevertheless, the Americans will call the shots, entirely according to their nature of always holding the power in their hands. From this, a project of an international space station will develop, which will be tackled around the turn of the millennium. But before this, in February of 1986, the start of a Russian space station with the name Mir Peace will take place, as a replacement of the Salyut 7. However, in 1999, this new space station will have had its day, after which it will fall down to the Earth and most of it will burn up, while the remaining part will sink into the sea without causing damage. But the crash will only take place in the year 2000. The new International Space Station will be named the ISS, which means International Space Station in the English language. This station, which will originally be named the ISA and, thus, International Space Station Alpha, will weigh about 500 tons when it is completed in approximately the year 2005. The first preliminary work in Earth's orbit will begin when everything is all right, starting in November of 1998, and the measurements of the station will be about 110 x 80 meters. The German federal government will also participate in the so-called Ariane project, respectively in the further development of the European booster rocket, which will be launched into Earth's orbit from Kourou. Kourou is a city on the coast of French Guiana, where the seat of the French Space Research Center has been since 1967, to which a rocket launching base is also attached. But back to the next coming time. In the month of January 1985, the U.S. President Ronald Reagan in Washington will swear his oath for a second term of office. By the end of January, it will happen further that for the first time after the Second World War, a Jewish World Congress will take place, namely in Austria, in the capital Vienna, and there will be demands for a reinforced battle against fascism, anti-Semitism, and Nazism in accordance with a main topic. At the same time, it will be that Pope John Paul II will undertake his 25th trip to foreign locations and will visit the states of Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela, and Trinidad and Tobago.
And what about the Soviet Union? Semyase once said, nevertheless, that this would still collapse before the turn of the new millennium because a man would come to power who lays the groundwork for the end of the Soviet Union and the GDR, East Germany. Even you have spoken of this and already told a few things.
That is correct. It will happen in the first 10 days of the month of March, 1985, that the state and party chief Konstantin Chernenko will die, after which a decision will be issued only a day later, which will not be unanimous, however, that a man named Mikhail Gorbachev has to assume the office of the Secretary General. However, already more than a month before, the Soviet Party newspaper will have published this, whose attitude is also already pre-programmed, that the state and party chief, Konstantin U. Chernenko, is thrown down by a very serious illness.
The party newspaper is nevertheless the Pravda?
That is correct. It will further occur in February of 1985 that Hafez al-Assad, who has been officiating in Syria since 1971, will be elected as president for another 7 years as a result of compulsion and election fraud, as well as by the fact that he will be the only candidate. During the same period, Israel will reject the participation of the PLO in a planned international Middle East peace conference.
PLO, that is the Palestine Liberation Organization.
That is correct. King Hussein II of Jordan, whom you know personally very well, will reach an agreement with Yasser Arafat in Amman for a new Middle East peace initiative, which will be boycotted, nevertheless, by the Israelis. You also know Yasser Arafat.
Yes, but I found him to be rather unsympathetic.
That is well known to me. Around the 20th of February 1985, in the vicinity of Bilbao, a Boeing of the Spanish airline Iberia will crash, which will cost 148 human lives. In Austria, around the 20th of February, the nuclear-armed Soviet Union will be made subject to the control of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. The contract will be signed in Vienna. Only a few days later, there will be a worldwide sensation in Australia, when for the first time, twins will be born to a mother who was impregnated by the implantation of so-called frozen embryos. Toward the end of the month of February, 1985, an airplane of the German Lufthansa will be kidnapped from Frankfurt on Main to the Vienna International Airport in Schwechat, after which both Syrian-born kidnappers will be arrested. These are some events that will happen in the next few months. Apart from the things that relate to the Russian and the International Space Station and to the choice of the new Russian state and party leaders, everything else will happen by the end of the month of February. I will explain more to you when I come again on the 3rd of February of next year and visit you. But now, I would still like to mention a few private words that should not appear in the conversation report.
As you wish. Then let us hear what you have to say.